Today's talk explores why technical defenses fail when human factors are ignored. Cybersecurity is often described as a technical field, but the truth is that people sit at the center of every system. The goal today is to take a look at how attackers use psychology, how organizations unintentionally create vulnerabilities, and why understanding human behavior is essential for building stronger defenses. One of the most well-known scams involves a faraway prince who promises to double your money if you help him out just this once. You are cousins, after all. Most people laugh at this example because it seems obvious. Yet this simple story captures something important. Attackers don't need advanced malware or zero-day exploits when they can simply convince a person to act against their own interests. The human mind becomes the entry point. And while the print scam feels outdated, the psychology behind it is alive and well in modern attacks that are far more polished and far more believable. The only difference is that today's attackers have better data, better tools, and much better understanding of how people think. Cybersecurity has changed dramatically in the last decade. Attackers have realized that people are easier to manipulate than systems are to break. Firewalls, authentication systems, and monitoring tools have all improved, but people remain human. Recent research shows that social engineering attacks exploit trust, fear, and urgency to bypass even strong technical defenses. A 2024 study by Tikanmaki and Ruoslahti explains that human vulnerabilities often come from carelessness, unintentional errors, or a lack of awareness. And these weaknesses are now central to how attackers operate. Instead of fighting through layers of security, attackers simply target the person who has access to everything. People make decisions under pressure. They respond to authority. They want to be helpful. They get tired. They get distracted. These natural tendencies create predictable patterns that attackers study and exploit. Social engineering works because it aligns with how the brain tries to simplify complex information. When someone receives an urgent message that appears to come from a supervisor, the instinct is to act quickly rather than analyze the situation. This isn't a flaw in character, it's a feature of human cognition, and attackers know this. They design messages that feel routine, familiar, and urgent because those are the moments when people stop thinking and start reacting. Attackers use emotional triggers to guide this behavior. Fear prompts quick action. Curiosity encourages clicks. Trust literally opens doors. A recent interdisciplinary review published in 2025 highlights how decision making, organizational culture, and human behavior shapes cybersecurity outcomes. It emphasizes that technical controls alone cannot compensate for human factors that influence daily choices. Attackers understand that people rely on mental shortcuts. If a message looks close enough to something a person expects to see, they will often act without questioning it. This is why phishing emails mimic payroll updates, shipping notifications, or internal memos. They blend into the noise of everyday work, and when something blends in, it becomes invisible. One of the most powerful forces behind social engineering is cognitive bias. Confirmation bias makes people trust information that fits what they already believe. Authority bias makes them comply with requests from someone who appears to be in charge. And urgency bias pushes them to act before thinking. These biases aren't weaknesses, they are survival mechanisms that help people navigate a complex environment. But in cybersecurity, they become vulnerabilities. Attackers don't need to outsmart technology, they only need to understand how people think. And because these biases operate automatically, people often don't realize that they're being influenced until it's too late. Many organizations heavily invest in firewalls, monitoring tools, and authentication systems, but overlook the social environment in which people work. If employees feel rushed, unsupported, or afraid of making mistakes, they become more vulnerable to manipulation. A 2024 thesis from Turku University of Applied Sciences found that social engineering succeeds when organizations fail to integrate human factors into their defense strategies. It stresses that awareness, training, and culture must be part of the security framework. When people feel pressure to respond quickly or fear being blamed for slowing things down, they're more likely to click first and think later. The problem isn't the person, the problem is the environment that shapes their decisions. People are juggling tasks, deadlines, and expectations. They're trying to be efficient, they're trying to be helpful, and attackers rely on that. When organizations treat cybersecurity as a purely technical problem, they create blind spots. They assume that tools will catch everything. They assume that people will always follow procedures. But real life doesn't work that way. The cost of ignoring the human factor is not just financial, it affects trust, morale, and the overall resilience of an organization. A single successful social engineering attack can undo years of investment into technology. If people are the primary target, then people must be the primary defense. This means designing systems that reduce cognitive load, providing training that explains not just what to do, but why it matters, and creating a culture where asking questions is encouraged. When employees understand how manipulation works, they become more confident and more resilient. When organizations support them, they make fewer mistakes. And when training is ongoing rather than a once a year checkbox, people stay aware of how threats evolve. A strong security culture doesn't blame people for mistakes, it prepares them to avoid those mistakes in the first place. The core message is simple. Technical defenses fail when human factors are ignored. Cybersecurity isn't only about protecting networks, it's about understanding people. When organizations treat users as partners rather than obstacles, they strengthen every layer of defense. Attackers study human behavior. Defenders must do the same. The future of cybersecurity depends on how well we support the people who sit at the center of every system. A print scam seems silly, but it teaches a real lesson. The most powerful tool in cybersecurity is a person who understands how manipulation works and feels supported enough to question what doesn't seem right. When we invest in people, we protect everything else. And when we design defenses that respect how humans think and behave, we build systems that aren't only secure, but are resilient. My name is Jacob Liao, and thank you so much for listening to my talk. Have a very good and very safe rest of your day. Thank you.